The night sky on Vraxel Prime burned red with volcanic fires. In the birthing chamber of Warlord Krathmir, 5 eggs cracked open one by one. The first 4 hatchlings burst through their shells with fury. They were large, strong, and aggressive. Their claws gleamed sharp even in their first moments of life. They roared and snapped at each other, already fighting for dominance. The 5th egg took longer to crack. When it finally opened, a small creature crawled out. It was barely half the size of its siblings. Its claws were dull and soft. It made no sound, just looked around with wide, confused eyes. Krathmir stared at the tiny creature with disgust. His mate, Sasika, reached out to touch the small one, but the warlord pushed her hand away. "This one is weak," Krathmir said, his voice like grinding stone. "It dishonors our bloodline." Sasika looked at the tiny hatchling. For a moment, something like sadness crossed her face, but tradition was tradition. Among the Vraxel, weakness was not tolerated. The strong survived. The weak were cast out. "What is your decision?" Sasika asked, though she already knew. "Take it to Haven's Edge," Krathmir commanded. "Leave it in the forest. If it survives, it was meant to live. If not, nature will correct our mistake." That night, Sasika carried the small creature to a neutral moon called Haven's Edge. It was a trading post where many species came to buy and sell goods. She walked deep into the forest, far from the settlements. She placed the tiny Vraxel on the ground beneath a large tree. The creature looked up at her and made a soft sound. Sasika turned away quickly. She could not show weakness herself. But as she walked back to her ship, she did something unusual. She marked certain trees with her claws, creating a pattern. It was subtle, almost invisible. A path that led toward the human section of the trading post. Then she left and the small creature was alone. 3 days passed. The tiny Vraxil, who had been named Velcra in the moments after birth, grew weaker. It had no food. The nights were cold. Cuts covered its small body from trying to move through the rough forest. It should have died on the first night, but something in Velcra refused to give up. It found water in a small stream. It ate insects and soft plants. It was not much, but it was enough to survive one more day. Then another. Then another. On the 4th day, a human ship landed at Haven's Edge. It was a small freighter called the Morning Star. Captain Jiho and his crew had come to pick up supplies for their colony. Jiho was a tired man in his 50s with gray in his hair and kind eyes. He had been flying cargo ships for 30 years. His second in command was a woman named Hana. She was younger, strong, and moved like a fighter. She had once been a soldier before she joined Jiho's crew. Now she helped run the ship and kept everyone safe. As they loaded cargo, Hana checked her scanner. She frowned. "Captain," she called out, "I'm getting strange readings from the forest." "Life signs, but they're weak." "Probably just local wildlife," said Taemin, their cargo officer. He was a practical man who did not like delays. "We should finish loading and leave. This place gives me bad feelings," but Jiho was curious. "How weak are the readings?" "Very weak," Hana said. "Like something dying." Jiho looked at the forest. They had time before the cargo was fully loaded. "Let's take a look." "It won't take long." Taemin sighed but followed. So did Young Suk, their ship's medic. She was a gentlewoman who had dedicated her life to healing. She carried her medical kit everywhere, just in case. They followed Hana's scanner deep into the forest. The readings grew stronger. Then they heard it, a small, weak sound, like a cry for help. They found Velcra beneath the tree. The tiny creature was barely moving. Its eyes were closed. Blood stained its gray skin. "What is that?" Taemin whispered. Young Suk knelt down immediately. Her training kicked in. She scanned the creature with her medical device. Her eyes went wide. "It's a child," she said. "An infant. And it's dying. What species?" Jiho asked. Young Suk looked at her scanner again. Then she looked up at the captain with concern. "It's Vraxil." Everyone went silent. The Vraxil were known throughout the galaxy. They were the most feared warriors in space. They were brutal, aggressive, and strong. They showed no mercy to enemies. Many species feared them. "We should leave it," Taemin said immediately. "Vraxil are dangerous. Even the children." "It's dying," Young Suk said firmly. "Look at it. It's just a baby." Jiho looked at the tiny creature. It was so small, so weak. It did not look dangerous. It looked scared and hurt. He had seen many things in his years of space travel, but this surprised him. "Pick it up," he said. Carefully, Young-suk gently lifted Velcro. The creature made a small sound but did not fight. It had no strength left to fight. They carried it back to the ship. On the Morning Star, Young-suk worked quickly. She cleaned Velcro's wounds. She gave it medicine and fluids. She wrapped it in warm blankets. Slowly, the tiny Vraxel's breathing became stronger. "Will it live?" Jiho asked. "Maybe," Young-suk said. "If we're lucky. But Captain, what are we going to do with it? We can't keep a Vraxel on the ship." Jiho thought for a moment. Then he made a call to the Vraxel authorities. He explained what they had found. He offered to return the child to its people. The response came quickly. A Vraxel face appeared on the screen. It was cold and hard. "You found an abandoned one," the Vraxel said. "It was judged unworthy of life. Its fate is sealed. Do not contact us again about this matter." The transmission ended. The crew stood in shocked silence. "They don't want it back," Hana said quietly. "They left it there to die on purpose." "That's barbaric," Young-suk said, anger in her voice. "That's their culture," Taemin said. "We can't judge them, but we also can't keep this creature. We should leave it at an orphanage or something." "What orphanage will take a Vraxel?" Hana asked. "You heard the reputation. No one will want to raise a creature that might grow up to be a killer." Jiho looked at the small creature sleeping in the medical bay. It looked so peaceful now. So innocent. He thought about his own life. He had no children. His wife had died years ago. He had spent his life moving cargo from place to place. What was the point of it all? "We'll take it with us," he said. "Captain, are you serious?" Taemin asked. "Yes," Jiho said. "This child was thrown away because it was weak. But weakness is not a crime. We'll give it a chance to live. If it grows up to be dangerous, we'll deal with that when the time comes. But right now it's just a baby who needs help." Hana smiled. "I'm with the captain." Young-suk nodded. "Me too." Taemin shook his head, but he did not argue further. "Fine, but I'm putting this in my log. When this goes wrong, I want it recorded that I said so." Jiho laughed. "Noted." The Morning Star left Haven's Edge and set course for their home colony, New Busan. In the medical bay, Velcro slept deeply for the first time since being abandoned. The tiny creature did not know it yet, but its life had just changed forever. The humans did not know what they had started. They had simply seen something weak and decided to help. That was the human way. They looked at broken things and saw potential. They looked at lost things and offered home. In the vast galaxy where strength was everything, the humans had made a different choice. And that choice would change everything. 3 years passed like pages turning in a book. The tiny creature that had nearly died in a forest was now a young child running through the streets of New Busan. The colony was home to 15,000 humans, and many other species who lived together in peace. Vel, as the humans called the child now, had grown, not as large as a Vraxel should be, but healthy and strong in different ways. Vel stood about 4 feet tall with gray skin and small claws that were kept carefully trimmed. The child wore simple human clothes, a blue shirt and brown pants, and attended school with human children. Captain Jiho had retired from space travel to raise Vel properly. He now worked as an administrator for the colony, helping to solve disputes and manage resources. He lived in a small house on the edge of the settlement with Vel. Every morning they ate breakfast together. Every evening they talked about the day. "How was school?" Jiho asked one evening as they ate rice and vegetables. "Good," Vel said, speaking perfect human language. "We learned about Earth history today, about the wars and how humans learned to work together." "And what did you think?" Jiho asked. Vel was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I think humans are strange. You fight each other, but then you stop fighting and become friends. Fraxil don't do that." "No," Jiho agreed. "They don't. But that's what makes humans special, Vel. We can change. We can learn from mistakes. We're not perfect, but we try to be better." Vel nodded slowly, processing this. The child was always thinking, always trying to understand the world. Hana had become Vel's combat instructor. 3 times a week they trained together in the colony's gym. But Hana did not teach Vraxil fighting styles. She taught human martial arts, techniques that used balance, leverage, and timing instead of pure strength. "Again," Hana said, standing in a ready position. Vel charged forward, trying to tackle her. Hana stepped aside smoothly and used Vel's momentum to flip the child over her hip. Vel landed on the mat with a thud. "What did you do wrong?" Hana asked. Vel thought about it. "I used too much force. I should have been more controlled. Exactly, Hana said, helping Vel up. Strength without control is wasted. A smaller fighter can beat a larger one if they're smarter about how they move. Remember that. Vel practiced the move over and over until it became natural. The child was learning that power was not just about being strong. It was about knowing when and how to use that strength. Young-suk taught Vel about medicine and biology. She showed the child how bodies worked, how to treat injuries, and how to help others who were sick or hurt. Why do we help people who are weak? Vel asked one day while they organized medical supplies. Young-suk paused. Because everyone is weak sometimes, Vel. You were weak when we found you. Does that mean you didn't deserve help? No, Vel said quietly. Exactly, Young-suk said. Helping others isn't about getting something back. It's about making the world better. That's what gives life meaning. Taemin, who had once been skeptical about keeping Vel, had become like a favorite uncle. He taught the child about engineering and how machines worked. They spent hours together in his workshop building small robots and fixing broken equipment. Hand me that wrench, Taemin said one afternoon. They were working on a water purifier. Vel passed him the tool. Taemin, why did you not want to keep me at first? Taemin stopped working. He looked at the child seriously. You want the truth? Yes, I was afraid, Taemin admitted. I didn't know anything about Vraxil except their reputation. I thought you might be dangerous. But I was wrong, Vel. I judged you before I knew you. That's something I'm not proud of. But you changed your mind, Vel said. Yes, because you showed me that you're not your species. You're yourself. You're Vel. And Vel is a good kid who likes to build things and ask too many questions. He smiled. Vel smiled back. It was these moments that made life on New Busan feel like home, but not everyone was kind. At school there was a boy named Dong Hyun who led a group of other teenagers. They did not like Vel. They called the child names Monster, Reject, Freak. One day they cornered Vel after school. Why don't you go back to your own kind? Dong Hyun said, pushing Vel against a wall. Oh wait, they didn't want you either. Vel's claws extended slightly. The old Vraxil instincts whispered, fight, hurt them, show dominance. But then Vel remembered Jiho's words. You're defined by your choices, not your anger. Vel took a deep breath and retracted the claws. Leave me alone, Dong-hyun. Or what? You'll cry to your human daddy? Dong-hyun laughed. Vel did not fight them. Instead, the child walked away. The bullies followed, throwing insults. But Vel had a plan. The next day, Vel used skills learned from Taemin. The child rigged a harmless trap in the hallway using the school's water fountain and some basic engineering. When Dong-hyun and his friends walked by, sensors triggered. Water mixed with harmless but very smelly algae sprayed all over them. The bullies screamed and ran. The whole school smelled their shame for days. Vel never got caught because the trap was so cleverly hidden. When Jiho found out, he was both amused and stern. That was smart, Vel, but you could have just told a teacher. Would they have believed me? Vel asked. Jiho sighed. Maybe not. But violence isn't the answer. Not even clever violence. I didn't hurt them, Vel pointed out. Just embarrassed them. True, Jiho admitted. But remember what I taught you. Humans conquered Earth not through claws but through intelligence and cooperation. You proved you're intelligent. Now work on the cooperation part. Vel had one true friend at school, a girl named Misun. She was fascinated by aliens and different species. While other children feared Vel, Misun saw wonder. Does it hurt when your claws come out? She asked one day during lunch. A little, Vel admitted. Like stretching a muscle too far. Cool, Misun said, her eyes bright. Do you think you'll get bigger? I don't know, Vel said. I'm small for a Vraxil. Maybe I'll always be small. Small isn't bad, Misun said. My mom says the best things come in small packages. Like dynamite, Vel laughed. Misun always knew how to make things better. One day, a Vraxil patrol ship came to New Busan on routine business. Vel was at the market with Hana buying food. The Vraxil warriors walked past and one of them stopped. He stared at Vel. You, the warrior growled. His name was Grethnal. You are Vraxil. Why do you dress like them? Why do you walk with the weak ones? Hana stepped forward. This child is under human protection. Grethnal ignored her. You dishonor your blood by living among these creatures. When the time comes, your true nature will emerge. You will kill these humans. It is what we are. Vel felt fear but stood firm. I am what I choose to be. Grethnal laughed, a harsh sound. Choice, there is no choice. Blood is blood. You are a predator living with prey. One day you will remember what you are. The warrior walked away, leaving Vel shaking. That night the child couldn't sleep. What if the warrior was right? What if the violent nature inside was just waiting to come out? Jiho found Vel sitting outside looking at the stars. Can't sleep? He asked, sitting down next to the child. Am I dangerous? Vel asked quietly. Jiho thought carefully before answering. Everyone can be dangerous, Vel, even humans. We've fought terrible wars. We've done horrible things to each other. But we also create art and music. We help each other, we love. You have Vraxel blood, yes? But you also have 3 years of being raised by people who care about you. You're not defined by what that warrior said. You're defined by your choices. What if I make the wrong choice? Vel asked. Then you learn from it and make a better choice next time, Jiho said. That's all any of us can do. Vel leaned against Jiho. The old man put his arm around the child. They sat together under the stars, a human and a Vraxil, family not by blood but by choice. In those 3 years, Vel learned many things. How to fight with technique instead of rage, how to build machines and solve problems, how to help others who were hurt, how to be a friend, how to think before acting. The child was not becoming Vraxil. The child was not becoming human either. Vel was becoming something new. Something that took the best parts of both and created something different. The galaxy believed that strength was everything, but Vel was learning a different lesson. Real strength was choosing kindness when you could choose violence. Real strength was helping others when you could ignore them. Real strength was being yourself when everyone said you should be something else. And that lesson would soon be tested in ways none of them expected. Vel was 12 years old now, which was like being a teenager for Vraxil. The child had grown stronger and faster, though still small compared to what a normal Vraxil should be. Life on New Busan had been peaceful for years. That peace was about to end. The attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Ships appeared in the sky, not trading vessels but military craft. They belonged to a mercenary group called the Crimson Fangs. These were criminals who attacked colonies to steal supplies and weapons. Their leader was a man named Reyes, a human who had turned bad. He worked with anyone who paid, no matter how evil the job. Today he had been hired to raid New Busan's supply depots. The colony's defense alarm screamed through the air. People ran for shelters. Jiho, now head of colony security, rushed to the command center. Hana grabbed her weapons and joined the defense force. Taemin ran to try fixing the colony's shield generator, which had been damaged in the first attack. Youngsuk set up an emergency medical station. Get to the shelter, Jiho told Vel firmly. Stay hidden until this is over. Vel nodded and ran toward the school where many civilians were gathering. The colony's small defense force tried to fight back, but the Crimson Fangs had better weapons and more soldiers. Explosions rocked the streets. Smoke filled the air. At the main plaza, Hana and 20 defenders held a position behind barricades. Enemy fire came from all directions. She shot back carefully, making every round count. But they were being pushed back. We can't hold this position much longer, one defender shouted. We have to, Hana yelled back. If they break through here, they'll reach the residential district. At the power station, Taemin worked frantically on the shield generator. If he could get it working, it would protect the colony from the ships above. But the damage was worse than he thought. He needed more time. At the medical center, Youngsuk worked on wounded people. More kept coming. She was running out of supplies. And in the school building, Vel and 200 other people huddled in the basement. Misun sat next to Vel, scared but trying to be brave. Other children cried. Adults tried to comfort them. Then they heard heavy footsteps above. Voices shouting in a language most people didn't understand. The mercenaries had reached the school. Everyone stay quiet, whispered the teacher in charge. But one of the mercenaries had a scanner. He detected the life signs below. 3 armed men started breaking down the door to the basement. Vel heard them coming. The old Vraxil warrior's words echoed in memory. Your true nature will emerge. But Vel thought of different words. Jiho's words. You're defined by your choices. The child stood up. Misun grabbed Vel's hand. Don't go. They'll hurt you. They'll hurt everyone if I don't do something, Vel said quietly. The child turned to the teacher. I know another way out. The maintenance tunnels. I studied the building plans with Taimin. There are tunnels? The teacher asked, surprised. Yes, I can lead everyone through them to safety, but we have to go now. The teacher hesitated only a moment, then nodded. Everyone follow Vel, quickly and quietly. Vel led them to a hidden panel in the wall. Behind it was a narrow tunnel used for repairs and ventilation. It was small, too small for large adults but perfect for children and people willing to crawl. One by one they went through. Mi-sun helped guide the younger children. Vel stayed at the back, making sure everyone got through. Above, they heard the door break open. Angry voices shouted. Footsteps thundered. They're gone.
Check the tunnels.
3 mercenaries spotted the open panel and came after them. They were too large to move fast in the narrow space, but they had guns. Vel thought quickly. The child remembered everything Taimin had taught about the building systems. These tunnels ran past the science lab. That lab had chemicals. Keep going, Vel told the others. Don't stop. The child broke off into a side tunnel that led to the science lab. The mercenaries split up. 2 followed the main group. 1 followed Vel in the lab. Vel moved fast. The child grabbed 2 specific chemicals that Young Suk had once explained were harmless alone, but created thick smoke when mixed. Vel poured them into containers and threw them into the hallway just as the mercenary arrived. Thick white smoke filled the area. The mercenary coughed and cursed, unable to see. Vel used the confusion to rig the lab's magnetic containment field, designed to hold metal instruments, turning it into a trap. When the mercenary walked past, Vel activated it. His weapons flew from his hands and stuck to the magnetic panels. Disarmed and blind, the mercenary stumbled away, yelling for help. Vel ran back into the tunnels. The child caught up with the group just as they emerged in a safe building on the other side of the residential district. Everyone was breathing hard but unhurt. You saved us, Mi-sun said, hugging Vel. We're not safe yet, Vel replied. 2 mercenaries followed the tunnel. They might find the others, but Vel had another idea. The child ran to where Hana was fighting. The plaza was chaos. Gunfire, explosions, people shouting. Vel stayed low and reached Hana's position. Vel, what are you doing here? Hana shouted over the noise. I got everyone out of the school through the tunnels. The tunnels connect to the entire colony. We can use them to get behind the enemy. Hana's eyes lit up. Show me. Vel led her and 5 other defenders into the tunnel system. They moved quickly through the narrow passages. Vel knew every turn, every connection. They emerged behind the main group of mercenaries who were attacking the plaza. The surprise was complete. Hana and her team hit the mercenaries from behind while the front defenders pushed forward. Caught between 2 forces, the criminals began to retreat. At the power station, Taimin finally got the shield generator working. A blue dome of energy surrounded the colony. The ships above could no longer fire on them. Their ground forces were cut off. Reyes, watching from his ship, cursed. All units fall back to extraction points. This raid is over. But one mercenary didn't retreat. He was in the residential district, angry about the failed mission. He kicked down a door and found Mi-sun's mother, Kyung-hee, trying to protect her home. He raised his weapon. Vel saw this through a window and didn't think. The child just acted. Vel crashed through the window, a move that would have injured a human but barely hurt Vraxel's skin. The child landed between the mercenary and Kyung-hee. The mercenary laughed. What's this? A little alien playing hero? He aimed his gun at Vel, and something changed in the child. Not the mindless rage that Grethnal had predicted. Something different. A cold, controlled fury that combined human tactical thinking with Vraxel's speed and strength. Vel moved faster than the mercenary expected. The child ducked under his aim, used Hana's techniques to strike nerve points in his arm. The gun dropped. The mercenary tried to punch Vel, but the child redirected the force, used his own momentum against him, and took him down without killing him. It was over in seconds. The mercenary lay on the ground, conscious but unable to move. Vel had used just enough force, no more, no less. Kyung-hee stared in shock. She had always been nervous around Vel, always worried about having a Vraxel in the colony. Now this dangerous creature had saved her life. Thank you, she whispered. Vel just nodded, breathing hard, and ran to find the others. By noon, the Crimson Fangs were gone. The colony had held. There were injuries, but fewer deaths than there could have been. Much of that was because of Vel's actions, leading civilians to safety, helping Hana outmaneuver the enemy, saving Kyung-hee. That evening, The colony gathered in the main plaza. Jiho stood at the front, his arm bandaged but his spirit strong. "Today we faced a terrible attack," he said. "We survived because we worked together, because we helped each other, and because one young person showed incredible courage." He gestured for Vel to come forward. The child did, feeling embarrassed. "Vel saved over 200 people today," Jiho continued. "Not through violence, but through intelligence and bravery. This is what makes us strong. Not weapons, but the willingness to protect each other." The crowd applauded. Some people cheered. But Vel noticed others who looked afraid. They had seen the child fight. They had seen what Vraxil's speed and strength could do. Even controlled, it was scary. Mi-sun's mother stepped forward. "I want to say something," Kyung-hee announced. Everyone went quiet. "I have been afraid of Vel since the child came to our colony. I thought having a Vraxil here was dangerous. Today that Vraxil saved my life. I was wrong to judge based on species. I'm sorry, Vel. Thank you for being braver than I was." Other people nodded. One by one, those who had been afraid began to see differently. Not everyone changed their minds. Fear doesn't disappear that easily. But it was a start. That night, Vel sat with Jiho, Hana, Taemin, Youngsuk, and Mi-sun. They were all tired but alive. "You did well today," Hana said. "You stayed calm and thought clearly. That's harder than fighting." "I was scared," Vel admitted. "That mercenary could have killed me." "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared," Jiho said. "It means doing what's right even when you are scared." "You proved something important today, Vel. You proved that you are who you choose to be." But news of the attack spread quickly through space. Reports reached many places, including Vraxil Prime. And in the halls of the Vraxil Empire, a certain warlord heard about a small Vraxil who fought like no other, who used tactics and intelligence, who saved humans instead of killing them. Krathmir listened to these reports. 6 months after the attack, life on New Busan had returned to normal. The damaged buildings were repaired. The colony was stronger now, with better defenses. Vel continued school, training, and helping around the colony. Everything seemed peaceful. Then the ships arrived. They were not cargo ships or even military vessels. They were Vraxil warships, massive and dark, designed to make people afraid. 3 of them entered orbit around New Busan. The entire colony watched the sky with worry. A message came to Jiho's office. "Send your administrator to the landing pad. We wish to speak." Jiho, Hana, and Vel went together. A large shuttle landed, and from it emerged 5 Vraxil warriors. They were huge, muscular, covered in scars from countless battles. Each one could have torn through steel with their bare claws. Leading them was Krathmir. Vel had never seen him before, but knew instantly who he was. There was something familiar in his face, something that looked like Vel's own features but larger, harder, more dangerous. "I am Warlord Krathmir," he announced, his voice deep and commanding. "I have come for the one called Vel." Jiho stepped forward. "Vel is under human protection and is a citizen of this colony." Krathmir's eyes fell on Vel. He studied the child for a long moment. Vel tried not to show fear, but it was hard. This creature was everything Vel could have been. Strong, fierce, terrifying. "Velkra," Krathmir said, using the birth name. "I am your father. I cast you out because you were weak. But I have heard stories of what you have become. Stories that interest me." "I don't need your interest," Vel said, voice shaking but determined. "You left me to die." "Yes," Krathmir said simply. "That is our way. The weak do not survive. But you did survive, and now you must prove whether that survival means anything." He handed Jiho a datapad. "You will return to Vraxil Prime to undergo the trials of ascension. This is our coming-of-age ritual. All young Vraxil must face it. If you refuse, you bring dishonor to my bloodline. Such dishonor would require me to erase the source of that dishonor." The threat was clear. If Vel refused, Krathmir would attack the colony. "That's not fair," Hana said angrily. "Vel doesn't owe you anything. Fair?" Krathmir's laugh was cold. "There is no fair. There is only strong and weak. If Vel is strong enough to survive among humans, Vel is strong enough to face our trials. Unless you are afraid?" Vel felt anger rise but pushed it down. This was manipulation. Krathmir was trying to force a decision through pride and fear, but Jiho had taught Vel to think clearly even when angry. "If I do these trials," Vel asked, "and pass them, what happens?" "Then you will be recognized as Vraxil," Krathmir said. "You will have proven your worth." Whether you choose to return to us or stay with humans, the dishonor will be erased. But if you fail, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. That night, the family gathered to discuss. Vel sat with Jiho, Hana, Taemin, Youngsuk, Misun, and her mother Kyunghee. Everyone was worried. You don't have to do this, Jiho said. We can find another way. Can we? Vel asked. If I refuse, he'll attack. People will die because of me. That wouldn't be your fault, Youngsuk said gently. But it would be my responsibility, Vel replied. The child had learned about responsibility from these humans. Actions had consequences. Choices mattered. Hana spoke up. If you go, you won't go alone. I looked at the treaty laws. We can send human observers. I'll go with you. So will Taemin and Youngsuk. I'm coming too, Misun said firmly. Her mother started to protest, but Misun cut her off. Mom, Vel is my best friend. I'm not letting Vel face those monsters alone. They're not monsters, Vel said quietly. They're just different. Maybe that's part of the problem. After hours of discussion, Vel made a decision. I'll do the trials. Not because I want their acceptance, but because I need to know for myself. I need to know if I can face where I came from and still be who I am. Jiho looked proud and sad at the same time. Then we support you. All of us. Before leaving, the colony held a gathering. Taemin presented Vel with a gift, special armor he had designed. It was lightweight but strong, combining human technology with designs that fit Vel's Vraxel body. It was gray with blue highlights representing both species. You're not just Vraxel and you're not just human, Taemin said. You're both. Let this remind you of that. Vel wore the armor with pride. It felt right, like it represented who the child had become. The journey to Vraxel Prime took 3 days. The planet was harsh and red, covered in volcanoes and dark oceans. It looked angry, like the species that lived there. The Vraxel cities were built from black stone with statues of warriors everywhere. Everything about this place screamed strength and violence. The humans felt small and vulnerable here. Even Hana, who feared little, stayed alert constantly. They were taken to a massive arena, carved from the volcanic rock. Thousands of Vraxel gathered to watch the trials. Vel saw the other candidates, young Vraxel ready to prove themselves. They were all huge, fierce, confident. They looked at Vel with contempt and at the humans with disgust. One of them, a massive male named Corvus, approached. You must be the runt I've heard about, the one who plays with humans. He was even larger than Krathmir, with scars across his chest. I am your brother. I will enjoy crushing you. We don't have to be enemies, Vel said, trying the human approach. Corvus laughed. Weak words from a weak creature. Our father should have eaten you at birth. Krathmir appeared and silenced Corvus with a look. Then he addressed all the candidates. The trials will test your strength, cunning, and will to survive. 3 challenges await. First, the hunt. Second, the gauntlet. Third, trial by combat. Prepare yourselves. That evening, the humans gathered in their assigned quarters. Youngsuk checked Vel's health. Taemin reviewed the armor systems. Hana went over strategy. Misun just sat with Vel holding the child's hand. Are you scared? Misun asked. Yes, Vel admitted. What if they're right? What if I'm too weak? You're not weak, Misun said firmly. You saved 200 people. You outsmarted armed mercenaries. You're the bravest person I know. You just do it differently than they do. That's not weakness. That's evolution, Vel smiled. Where did you learn a word like evolution? From my mom. She studies how species change over time. She says the ones who survive aren't always the strongest. They're the ones who adapt. Misun squeezed Vel's hand. You're the most adapted person I know. The next morning, the trials began. The first challenge was the hunt. Each candidate was given a tracker and sent into the wilderness to hunt a Gormak, a huge predator with 6 legs and armor-like skin. Most Vraxel charged in aggressively, using strength to overcome the creature. Vel took a different approach. The child used Youngsuk's teachings about animal behavior, watching how the Gormak moved and hunted. Vel used Hana's stealth training to stay hidden. And Vel used Taemin's engineering knowledge to create a trap using rocks and the terrain. When the trap was set, Vel lured the Gormak toward it. The creature stepped on the trigger and rocks fell, injuring its legs. Unable to run, it was vulnerable. Vel delivered a quick, merciful kill. The whole hunt took 3 hours, faster than most others. But the Vraxel elders were not impressed. Trickery, one sneered. Not honorable combat, but effective, another elder noted. The creature is dead. The task is complete, they argued while Vel stood silently, covered in dirt and blood but alive. The second challenge was the Gauntlet, a brutal obstacle course with automated weapons firing and warriors attacking. Most candidates powered through, accepting injuries as proof of toughness. Vel used speed and intelligence instead. The child's smaller size meant weapons missed more often. When other candidates charged obstacles, Vel found paths around them. And when a younger candidate fell and struggled, Vel stopped to help him up. This shocked everyone. In Vraxil culture, you never helped competitors. What are you doing? The young Vraxil gasped. Helping, Vel said simply, and continued the course. Corvus finished first. Vel finished third, but with no serious injuries. The helped candidate finished last but alive, looking at Vel with confusion and something like gratitude. Again, the elders argued. Some saw weakness in helping others, some saw strategy in finishing unhurt. None knew what to make of this strange hybrid approach. The final challenge was announced, trial by combat. Each candidate would face an opponent chosen by lot, but Corvus stepped forward. I challenge Velcra, he declared. I will fight my sibling and end this embarrassment to our family. The crowd roared approval. Krathmir said nothing, just watched with unreadable eyes. Vel stood in the arena, facing this massive warrior. Corvus was twice Vel's size, covered in muscle, trained in pure Vraxil combat. The odds seemed impossible. Any last words before I crush you? Corvus growled. Vel looked up at the humans in the viewing area. Jiho nodded. Hana gave a small smile. Youngsuk looked worried but hopeful. Taemin gave a thumbs up. Misun pressed her hand against the glass, sending strength. Vel looked back at Corvus. Just one. Let's see if size really matters. The battle was about to begin. The arena fell silent. Thousands of Vraxil warriors watched from the stone seats carved into the volcanic rock. In a special viewing area, Jiho, Hana, Taemin, Youngsuk, Misun, and Kyung-hee stood together, their faces tight with worry. Below on the sand-covered floor, Vel faced Corvus. The size difference was shocking. Corvus stood nearly 8 feet tall, his muscles thick and powerful. Vel barely reached 5 feet, looking like a child facing a giant. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. This would be over quickly. A horn sounded. The fight began. Corvus charged immediately, using the traditional Vraxil approach. Overwhelming force, no strategy, pure aggression. His claws extended, each one sharp enough to cut through metal. He swung at Vel's head with enough force to decapitate. Vel ducked. The child had learned from Hana that the first rule of fighting a stronger opponent was simple. Don't be where they're attacking. Corvus's claws whistled through empty air. He spun and attacked again, a series of brutal slashes. Vel dodged each one, moving just enough to avoid damage. The child didn't counterattack yet, just observed. Taemin had taught Vel that every machine had patterns and warriors were no different. Stand still and fight. Corvus roared, frustrated. Why would I do that? Vel called back, still moving. The crowd booed. This wasn't how Vraxil fought. Where was the clash of strength? Where was the blood and fury? Corvus changed tactics. He grabbed a handful of sand and threw it at Vel's eyes. A dirty trick, but effective. Vel was blinded for a moment. Corvus lunged, grabbed Vel by the throat, and lifted the child off the ground. Now I crush you, he growled, his grip tightening. Vel couldn't breathe. Panic started to rise. But then Youngsuk's voice echoed in memory. Every body has weak points. Know them. Vel stopped struggling against the grip and instead struck precisely at the nerve cluster in Corvus's elbow. The big warrior's arm went numb. His grip loosened. Vel fell free. Corvus roared in pain and anger. His arm hung useless for a moment. Vraxil regeneration would fix it, but it took time. He attacked with his other arm, more furious than before. This was when Vel changed approach. No more pure defense. Now the child used what Jiho called adaptive strategy, combining everything learned from humans with Vraxil natural abilities. When Corvus swung high, Vel went low, using speed. When he expected power, Vel gave him precision. When he attacked with rage, Vel responded with calm. Hana's martial arts, Taemin's analytical thinking, Youngsuk's knowledge of anatomy, and Jiho's strategic mind, all flowing together. Vel began to land hits. Not the brutal slashes of Vraxil combat, but targeted strikes at joints, nerve points, and muscles. Each one weakened Corvus a little more. The child was like water wearing down stone, patient and persistent. The crowd's attitude shifted. The laughter stopped. They were watching something they had never seen before. A Vraxel fighting with intelligence using technique over strength. Some found it fascinating. Others found it disturbing. Corvus was breathing hard now, his movements slower. Vel had barely taken damage using energy efficiently while forcing him to waste his. The big warrior's frustration grew. He had expected an easy victory. Instead, he was being dismantled piece by piece. "What are you?" Corvus gasped between breaths. "I'm Vel," the child answered. "And I'm exactly what I choose to be." Corvus gathered his remaining strength for one final assault. He charged with everything he had, claws out, roaring. It was do or die. If this didn't work, he had nothing left. Vel stood still, waiting. At the last possible moment, as Corvus committed fully to the attack, Vel used a move Hana had drilled 1,000 times, redirecting force. The child grabbed Corvus's arm, used his own momentum against him, and flipped the massive warrior over. Corvus crashed into the ground with tremendous force. Before he could rise, Vel was on him. The child had Corvus in a submission hold, one that would break his arm if he struggled. It was over. Vel had won. The arena was silent. No one could believe it. The runt had defeated one of the strongest candidates. "Submit," Vel said quietly. "Please, we don't have to hurt each other more." Corvus struggled briefly, but the pain was too much. "I submit," he gasped. Vel immediately released him and did something that made the entire crowd gasp. The child extended a hand to help Corvus stand up. "We're siblings," Vel said. "We don't have to be enemies." Corvus stared at the offered hand. His face showed confusion, anger, and something else. Something that looked almost like respect. Slowly, he reached up and took Vel's hand. The child helped him to his feet. The arena erupted in chaos. Some Vraxel roared approval. Others shouted insults. The elders argued loudly. This had never happened in the trial's history. A victor showing mercy, helping the defeated. It broke every tradition. Krathmir stood and silence fell immediately. The warlord walked down to the arena floor. His face was impossible to read. He stood before Vel, towering over the child. "Velcra," he said, "you have won through methods we do not recognize. You have shown mercy when tradition demands dominance. You have helped when you should have crushed. The elders debate whether this is strength or weakness." Vel stood tall, meeting Krathmir's eyes. "I learned from humans that there are many kinds of strength. The strength to fight, yes, but also the strength to think, to adapt, to choose compassion when you could choose cruelty. That's harder than just being brutal." Krathmir was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke words that would change Vraxel society. "I cast you out because our traditions demanded it. I believed the weak had no place among us. But I am forced to reconsider. You defeated Corvus not by being weaker, but by being different, perhaps." He paused, struggling with the admission. "Perhaps traditions that cannot adapt are themselves a weakness," the crowd murmured. "A warlord questioning tradition? Unthinkable. You are Vraxel by blood," Krathmir continued, "but you have become something else. Something new. The elders will recognize your completion of the trials, though many will never accept your methods. You have proven you are not weak. What you are, we have no words for yet." He didn't apologize for abandoning Vel. He couldn't. That would be too much against his nature. But this acknowledgement was as close as a Vraxel warlord could come to admitting error. Later, in private quarters, Krathmir met with Jiho. The human administrator and the Vraxel warlord stood face to face. "You raised my offspring well," Krathmir said. It was not easy for him to say. "I raised a child who needed help," Jiho replied. "That's what humans do. We see potential where others see only weakness." Krathmir nodded slowly. "My mate Sesika, before she died in battle, told me something. When she left Velcra in that forest, she marked trees, a path that led toward human settlements. She could not defy tradition openly, but she could bend fate. She hoped that if our weakest offspring lived, it would be because someone had the wisdom to save what we would discard." Jiho was quiet, processing this. She gave Vel a chance. Yes, perhaps she was wiser than I. Krathmir turned to leave, then paused. "Your species is strange. You take broken things and make them strong. You see possibilities we ignore. That is a dangerous gift. Or a hopeful one," Jiho said. The humans and Vel prepared to leave Vraxel Prime. As they boarded their ship, Corvus approached. His arm was healing, wrapped in medical bandages. He looked uncomfortable. "Vel," he said, struggling with words, "I do not understand you. But you defeated me fairly. That matters. Perhaps, he hesitated, perhaps I could learn this human way you speak of. If you would teach me, Vel smiled. Of course. Family should help each other. Family, Corvus repeated the word like it was foreign, which in a way it was. They returned to New Busan as heroes. The colony celebrated with music, food, and joy. Vel stood on a platform as Jiho addressed the crowd. Today, we celebrate not just victory, but proof of something important. We prove that compassion is strength. That intelligence is power. That different doesn't mean weak, it means evolved. Vel showed the galaxy that the human way works, and that's worth celebrating. The crowd cheered. Mi-sun hugged Vel tightly. I knew you'd win. You're the smartest person I know. Not smart, Vel said. Just taught well. Over the next months, word spread. Other colonies heard about Vel's story. Exiled members of warrior species rejected for being weak reached out. They wanted help. They wanted to learn this different way. Vel, with the family's support, created something new, the Hybrid Initiative. It was a program that helped rejected aliens find new paths. Hana taught combat techniques. Taemin taught engineering. Youngsuk taught medicine. Jiho taught strategy and leadership. Mi-sun documented everything for her studies in cross-species development. And slowly, remarkably, some Braxil began to show interest. Young warriors who questioned pure aggression. Elders who wondered if adaptation might be better than rigid tradition. It was just a trickle at first, but it was something. Corvus was the first. He arrived at New Busan, formally requesting asylum and education. Other Vraxil followed. The rigid society was developing cracks, and through those cracks, new possibilities grew. 5 years after the trials, Vel stood on a hill overlooking New Busan. The colony had grown. Multiple species now lived together, learning from each other. Jiho, older now but still strong in spirit, stood beside Vel. Proud of you, the old man said simply. I wouldn't be here without you, Vel replied.